Welcome once again to Future World Fellows Program Module 3, where we're discussing media ethics and responsible public communication. In the first part, we discussed the issue of why media ethics matters. That's part one, and we talked about the five pillars of ethical communication, and we discussed that. We want to enter in part three. We talked about media ethics in the digital age. Now let's move to part 4 in module 3. We're discussing the Fledism perspective in communication. By the way, some of you don't know what Fledism is. Fledism is a leadership philosophy that says that the primary purpose of leadership, particularly public leadership, is the enhancement of human life and the flourishing of society. That every other thing is secondary. In other words, the primary purpose of public leadership is to enhance the quality of human life and to guarantee the flourishing of society. That is a simple statement of Fledism leadership philosophy. So within Fledism leadership philosophy, let's take a look at communication. Within the Fledism leadership philosophy, leadership exists to improve the quality of human life. Leadership exists to improve the quality of human life. Therefore, communication must serve humanity. Communication must serve humanity. As a Future World Fellow, you should ask before publishing. You should ask before publishing. Asking what? What are you going to ask? You should ask a few questions. Number one, is it true? Is it fair? Is it constructive? Is it necessary? Does it strengthen public understanding? Does it respect human dignity? Will it contribute to stronger institutions? When you ask these questions and you take cognizance of them, it will influence your writing. This does not mean avoiding criticism. It doesn't mean that you not criticize situations that are not correct, but in the process, you will ask yourself, use these questions as your gauge. Now, it means, it means ensuring that criticism is evidence-based. It is solution-oriented. It is respectful, and it is directed towards social improvement. You don't just criticize for criticizing's sake. You don't criticize to find fault. You don't criticize to put people down or to put government down or to put policies down. You criticize to find better alternatives, to offer better alternatives, and to ensure that society, the aim is to ensure that society is getting better. You don't criticize for criticizing's sake. So communication should illuminate, not inflame. You don't communicate to inflame. Sometimes people write opinion articles to add salt into injury, as it were. So a Future World Fellow communicator must communicate to illuminate, not to inflame. Part 5 of this module, we want to examine the topic ethical case study. We're going to have, this is ethical case study. Now, as journalists, I want to take a look at this. For example, if a senior public official is accused of financial misconduct, or a confidential source sends you document, or the story is likely to go viral, these are the questions you should ask yourself. I repeat, if a senior public official is accused of financial misconduct, or a confidential source sends you document, or a story is likely to go viral, there are questions you need to ask. Number one, do you publish immediately? What should you verify first? Who should be contacted? How do you protect sources? In journalism, you say you protect your source. How do you ensure fairness? Because you may receive a document, an article coming from one end, and you publish without hearing the other side, you may end up taking sides. So questions you need to, these are questions you need to, I like to repeat this question because it's very important. As a media leader, you get a press release, you get a press statement, get some article from someone that you know that issue has public consequence. There are some questions you need to ask yourself. First, do you publish that article immediately? What should you verify in that article to be sure that it is actually as authentic as it shows or as it portends? Who should be contacted? How do you protect your sources? And then, of course, how do you ensure their fairness? These are things that are involved in ethical case study, ethical issues in public communication or leadership communication. Now, part 5, as we begin to wind down, let's look at the Future World Ethical Communication Framework. Future World Ethical Communication Framework. We have a framework we use in determining our communication. Now we call it FWEC test. FWEC test. What does F mean? F means facts. You ask yourself, have I verified every important claim? F represents facts. You say, have I verified every important claim? W means wisdom. Will this improve public understanding? You're going to ask us. This is a test you conduct by yourself as a future world public communicator, as a future world fellow. E is ethics. Is this fair? Is it truthful? Is it respectful? C, consequences. What are the likely effects on individuals, institution, and society if I publish this article? So, if any answer is uncertain, pause and reassess before publication. Let me repeat what I call the Future World Ethical Communication Framework. The Future World Ethical Communication Framework is what we call FWEC test, where F represents facts, W represents wisdom, E represents ethics, and C represents consequences. So we are saying that when you want to publish an article, this question that connected to this is a test. Use it to answer yourself and be sure that you have what it takes. Now, as we conclude, I have an assignment for you. Please pay attention and receive your assignment. The title of this assignment is Ethics Before Exposure. When should the public know? Ethics before exposure. When should the public know? So the task you have is to write a 1,200 word reflective essay addressing the following questions. Again, you're going to write an article of about 1,200, between 1,000 and 1,200 words. It's supposed to be a reflective article, a reflective essay addressing the following questions. In an age of instant publishing and social media, how should journalists, writers, and public commentators balance the public's right to know with their ethical responsibility to protect truth, fairness, and human dignity? Let me repeat. I say, in an age of instant publishing and social media, how should journalists, writers, and public commentators balance the public's right to know with their ethical responsibility to protect truth, fairness, and human dignity? Now, you support your reflections with the following. Support your reflection, that is your article, with the following. At least one real-world example. Provide one real-world example. Provide ethical principles discussed during this session. The ethical principles we discussed during this session, use them as basis for writing your article. Then provide practical recommendations for responsible public communication. Provide practical recommendations for responsible public communication. Now, this you're going to submit this in 2 weeks' time. Your timeline for this is 2 weeks. Now, there are things you may like to read to help you. You may like to read elements of journalism. You may like to read media ethics, issues, and cases. You may like to read selected editorial ethics policy from respected international and African news organizations. And of course, you may need to read Future World magazine editorial values. Check our editorial values to be developed. Check out our editorial values online. Go to About Us, About Future World magazine, and see our editorial values. No. So, in closing, the strength of a society depends not only on the freedom of its press, but also on the integrity of those who use that freedom. I'll repeat this statement. People always talk about freedom of the press, freedom of the press. The press themselves are seeking for freedom. To what extent are they exercising that freedom responsibly? So the question is, the strength of a society depends not only on the freedom of its press, but also on the integrity of those who use that freedom. So as a Future World Fellow, you are being prepared not simply to inform the public, but to serve it. You are being prepared to serve the public, not just to inform the public. Your words will shape opinions, influence. Your words will shape opinions, influence institutions, and contribute to the future of Africa. So let your communication always be guided by truth, wisdom,